Welcome to Nic On Knicks, where your boy N.I.C rants about the latest Knicks news. Knicks fans, how we feeling? In the grand scheme of things, the Knicks are 10-4 in their last 14. But most Knicks fans, including myself, are much more concerned with the fact that we are now 0-7 against Boston, Cleveland, and OKC. And that it looks like when we play the better teams in the league, we don't have the fight, we don't have the intensity, and we don't have the scheme and lineup deployment that those teams clearly have. So today, I'm not going to be on too long. But I mean, if you saw the thumbnail, the question is Thibs the problem? And I want to start off by reading a tweet that I put up on February 24th. So that's yesterday at 1:14 p.m. And in said tweet, I say it's okay to be a Knicks fan that loves and appreciates Thibs, but also criticize him. He's a top 10 coach in the league, but the top five-ish have sunned him this season. I'm not a fire Thibs guy, because who is the replacement? But I'm hoping for two things. Number one, he evolves like we have seen him do already during his Knicks tenure. Number two, we hire an assistant that has a more modern, analytics-driven approach to both sides of the ball. And I think that's a good place to start because I love Thibs. He is a top 10 coach in the NBA and has been for a decade, honestly. And I'm not saying that the Knicks need to fire Thibs or that they'll never win a championship with Thibs. I am saying there's certain things that I have real issue with that I think, as far as schematically and scheme wise, and who we put on the floor and when we put them on the floor, I don't think he's doing the best job at that at the moment. But before I get into Thibs, let's talk about a few things that Thibs has no control over and have nothing to do with him. These are things that, as a team and individually, we have to look at and say, this is not because Tom Thibodeau is not doing the best job that he can do. This is about certain players and their deficiencies, along with their inconsistent effort when it comes to certain aspects of the game. First and foremost, Tom Thibodeau has nothing to do with the fact that Karl Anthony Towns is a terrible defender. I don't know if I've ever seen somebody who has worse instincts when it comes to guarding the pick and roll and just space, and when I need to have my hands up and when I need to press up or when I need to drop back or when this guy's going to possibly, go and attempt a shot. The amount of times that a shot gets taken in the lane with Karl Anthony Towns a mere feet away and his hands at his waist, it's really hard to understand. And I really do feel like it's an instinct thing, because it's not just that he just gives bullshit effort. His effort sometimes, I thought a couple times specifically in that Boston game, his effort wasn't the best defensively. I think, when things are kind of going against him sometimes, he let's go with a rope, as the kids say. But overall, it's just something innately he doesn't have in him. But Mitch, everything that Mitch has as a defender, that innate skill that he has to be able to guard the pick and roll and bother the ball handler while also staying close enough to his man that the lob can't be thrown over his head. Whatever Mitch has, and we've seen it since his career started, he's got something deep in him that just makes him a great pick and roll defender. And I don't think it's because he spent so much time studying so much tape. The guy barely played basketball before he got to the Knicks. And from the jump, you saw that. He fouled way too much, but you saw that he had something in him as a defender, the timing, the understanding of space, and he was just great at disrupting the pick and roll. Karl Anthony Towns has the exact opposite. It just is what it is. I think that Cat has been a beast on the boards. I think he gives decent effort on defense. Offensively, he's a dynamo. He's unbelievable. There's very little, there's no holes to his offensive game. He's great. Whew. But I tell you though, defensively, he's not good. And that's not Thibs' fault. Thibs could, I think, emphasize him being a rim protector less instead of trying to sag back and be able to protect the paint as much. He could run a pick and roll defense that emphasizes not allowing wide open threes. But overall, Towns is just bad. He's just bad when it comes to defense, specifically pick and roll defense. It's not his thing. The only thing that he does remotely well on defense is when he gets switched onto a guard for a big man and a fairly slow-footed big man like he is. He does a good job of staying in front of guys. But you ask that guy to diagnose and try to disrupt a pick and roll, he can't do it. So that's one thing that Thibs, it's not on him. Mikal Bridges, man. I don't know what it's going to take for this guy to bring consistent aggression, but we haven't seen it all season. It's been a very up and down season for Mikal Bridges. He's had months where you wonder if he was worth 5 picks. He's had months where he looks like one of the best players two-way in the NBA. So it's really hard to have an opinion on this guy because, you think to yourself, man, I see this potential. I know what he's done before. He's averaged 19. He's averaged 26 points a game. We know that he's been runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year and has been a very good wing defender throughout his career. But we've seen all of those things ebb and flow. But specifically, the lack of aggression on the offensive end is mind-boggling. And it pissed me off even more in that Boston game where he stat padded at the end and all of a sudden started being aggressive and started getting buckets in garbage time. We just need more. Mikal, we need more. We need more aggression from you. Cat and Brunson, they can do their thing. They're great. They're going to give it to you most nights. Pause. And, even when they have a tough first half, those guys typically are good to get you and put you on their back and go for a run. But I need more aggressive. I need a more aggressive version of Mikal Bridges. It's just plain and simple. The guy has to look for a shot more, look to create more. The amount of times I see him catch a ball out on the wing and he never gets into a triple threat position. He just holds the ball up high because he's not open enough to shoot. So he holds the ball up high and he's looking for somebody to be able to pass it off to. Mikal, you're too good. You're too skilled. You can go both ways. You can get all the way to the basket. You have a great mid-range game off either foot. We know you can shoot threes as well. That's why they're up on you. Dribble around that man. Get an advantage. That hard closeout is not something that you should just accept. I really need to see more aggression from Bridges. he's been that guy this season. There's always like one guy where it's like, as he goes, we go. Like a guy just outside of like, your best players. And he's that guy for us this season. And we have to figure out a way to unlock him more, to run more sets for him, and for the coaching staff to just get in his head that we need you to look to score and create. And that's not just because we need the points. We score a lot of points. We need just a little bit less overall pressure on Brunson and Cat. And against the best teams, we just need the point total from you, Bridges. These good teams are going to figure out a way to slow down our best players. And overall, defensively, they're just better. So we need more output from ancillary guys. And now, some of these good teams and what they do and their ability to bother our best players more has to do with some of the lineups that we put out, but we'll get to that. I definitely need more aggression from Mikal Bridges. Another thing that Thibs has nothing to do with, it's not his fault as far as the player and what they do. Josh Hart, man, I need you to shoot it, man. I need you to go ahead and let it go and shoot some of these threes. Josh Hart is definitely not a great three-point shooter. He's not a good three-point shooter. He started off the season very hot after getting hot in the playoffs last year, but he's going to be up and down. Overall, Josh Hart currently is shooting 33.7% from three. And he's shooting just over 3 a game. The thing with Josh Hart is not only does he not shoot it, he's not willing to. He is more apprehensive to shoot a three than a guy who shoots 34% is. In today's NBA, you shoot 34%. I need you to go ahead and let them fly, because it's not just about hitting the shots. It's about keeping the defense honest, not allowing the defense to guard you and another player with one player because they know neither of you are going to shoot. Josh Hart does a lot of things for this team. He's the heart of this team. Obviously, the rebounding for his size is otherworldly. The coast to coast and being able to finish through contact, either hand, again, otherworldly. Fantastic, Josh. You mean so much to this team. You have to shoot the ball. You have to shoot it. We've seen it throughout Josh Hart's tenure as a Knick. It's not, I see, and some people want to say, is this a chicken or egg situation when he's shooting it well, so therefore he's more confident? Not so fast. Josh Hart, when he's more confident, shoots the ball better. Because there's been times where the confidence has wavered, even though he's been in a pretty good, a pretty good rhythm with the shot. So that's something that he deals with. Something that's, between the ears that he's got to figure out. He's got to be more aggressive. I need you to shoot the ball, Josh Hart. It's very important that in today's NBA, you don't have a guy who's 6'4" who is scared to shoot. The other thing that Thibs can't, it's not on him. OG Anunoby. Offensively, it's still a bit of an adventure. Can't really put the ball on the floor. When he does, it's a turnover waiting to happen. Not a great finisher around the rim if there's any type of resistance or traffic in the paint at all. All of a sudden, he immediately starts playing basketball like he's playing with his palms. and he's just slapping the ball around to himself. It's just there's no control. There's no. It's kind of it's odd, honestly, how OG gets when he gets you know guys around him slapping at the ball. Guys, really, it's guys giving him his own medicine because that's what OG does so well on the defensive end. Offensively, though, he's just he's not a he's not a dynamic offensive player. He shows you flashes of it, but it happens with no consistency at all. And OG shooting 36.4%. It's not horrible, but you would like OG to be a couple ticks higher than that. I know the corner three specifically has been something that hasn't been falling for him with the regularity that he's used to previously in his career. So those are some things that it's nothing Thibs can do about those things. And as I said at the top, I am a Thibs guy. I'm not saying get rid of Thibs, but I think there's some glaring things that are going on when it comes to this team and when it comes to what our philosophies are and how we deploy our lineup. I think there's some glaring things going on with this team right now. First and foremost, let's just get this out off top. Karl Anthony Towns hurts his knee on a dunk attempt. He's limping around, has to go back to the locker room, comes back out. He then gets reinserted into the game in the fourth quarter. He's still in the game when we're down by 2. I'm sorry, when we're down by 18 with 2 minutes left. Thibs, I don't know what was going on there. Thibs after the game said that Towns wanted to go in. I don't give a fuck. It don't matter if he wanted to go back in or not. Go sit down. We're not putting you back in this meaningless game. I know, people can come back. Tracy McGrady against San Antonio. Yeah. Listen, that game was over. The percentages, the chances of us coming back in that game were so small. Okay. It'd have been like a plus 30,000 on DraftKings. So at the end of the day, when you have a center who has missed games due to a knee this year, who has had surgery on, I think at least on that knee, if not both of his knees in his career, a guy who consistently throughout his career, misses some games, has some injuries. If you think it makes sense to send that guy back out there for what is essentially garbage time when he's already been limping like that, that was indefensible in my opinion. Come on, Thibs. You got to be better. I'm sorry. That ain't it, bro. Get that man out the game. Keep him out the game. Do not put him back in and have him playing when the game is 2 minutes left and we're down by 18. That's wild. All right. So get that out the way. Thibs is a good coach, man. He's a good coach. We are very lucky right now that as Knicks fans, we are talking about the fact that we can't beat the top 3 teams in the league. I mean, what a difference a few years makes. Don't even talk about what things looked like, a decade ago. Yo, man, we're pretty good. We're not great. Now, a lot of people start saying things like, this just isn't the year. We're not there yet. This is the first year. That's where you lose me. I think when you're in that top little, few teams, top 5 teams in the NBA, you got to look at that as a chance to go get a title. And like I said in the tweet that I read earlier, we need for that to happen, we need health. We need Mitch back, which could be happening any day. Some people say as early as tomorrow. against the Sixers, get some get back against Embiid. Thibs says that that Mitch is taking, full contact in practice, that he was very active, and it's about, how he feels tomorrow when he wakes up and then getting cleared by medical. There was also some chatter about a post that Mitch made on Instagram where he said he'd be back very, 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 very soon, and that he needed like one of his trucks cleaned or something like that to roll up to the game. And the only home game that the Knicks play this week is tomorrow, Wednesday, against the Sixers. So therefore, many people are thinking maybe that means, all right, our guy Mitchie no snitchy. Shout out to my man Cody Glock. The Block Nest Monster might be back. And I think that helps us in a whole lot of ways. Not just his defense, not just in his rebounding, but what it's going to be able to do as far as the lineup. And I'm not talking about inserting him into the starting lineup, which I'm still not sure is going to happen. Thibs made a statement today about we've been missing our starting five. So many people are like, oh, but then he also said something after that kind of, walked that back a little bit. I don't listen to me. It's about getting 15, 20 minutes a game out of Mitch. But when it comes to lineups, I do think that is going to help us, especially with that second unit, put out a lineup that is not so devoid of shooting, but also not extremely good at rebounding. So when it comes to the lineup thing, I'm really starting to come around to Deuce as the starting shooting guard and Josh Hart coming off the bench. Now, if Mitch gets inserted into the starting lineup, then Josh Hart goes to the bench anyway. So that wouldn't change things too much. But if we were in a situation where we could have Mitch coming off the bench, I think even more so, then at that point, it makes sense to insert Deuce into the starting lineup. All of the Knicks' best lineups include Deuce. The top 6 lineups via net rating all include Miles Deuce McBride. I say Big Bride? McBride. Sorry, Deuce. Seriously, man. At the end of the day, that's so much data over so much time that you feel like he needs to play. And then when you watch the games, it feels like the times when Deuce is in is when like the team goes on a run. Deuce has got to play more, man. He's got to. Shout out to my guys Jeff and XJ over on Hot Hand Theory. They were making this point. I don't know, probably about half the points I make today I stole from them. Let's keep it real. I'll just use less numbers to back it up. And more anecdotal evidence. Yeah, man. I think at the end of the day, we have a team that has a lot of skill, a lot of versatility, and a lot of players who do different things well. How do we maximize that? That has to be a question that you ask of the head coach, right? I think that Deuce in the starting lineup makes more sense than Josh Hart, just because it makes the floor so much more open. And Brunson's numbers with with Deuce on the floor as opposed to with Josh Hart, it's drastic. His 3%, his 3-point percentage goes way up. His free throws go up. His overall shooting percentage goes up. I mean, it's just life is easier for him when Deuce is on the floor, just because there's somebody else who you have to pay attention to who has a willing, quick trigger on the floor. And I think that, on some of the smaller guards, I think that Deuce is a slightly better defender than Josh Hart. I think Josh Hart's defensive ability is less on his one-on-one, being able to stay in front of and stop his particular guy. He's a good defender, and he's a decent one-on-one. He's a better than average one-on-one defender. Don't get me wrong here, but his real value is when he kind of gets to just play hectic and be almost like a strong safety. A guy that gets his nose in there and will make a deflection on like a weak side switch, and then once he does, he's off and running. He's going down. He's going to finish. Josh Hart, when you get the ball on the break, go finish, man. Don't try to make no slick ass pass. That ain't your thing, dog. You make at least one stupid pass a game trying to do some slick shit where you up in the air and trying to figure it out on the fly. Go straight to the rack and lay it up, or give it up early and get it back. Once Josh Hart gets inside the 3-point line and he starts looking to jump in the air to pass, bad things happen. Okay, so let's cut that back a little bit. And so, as far as the lineups, I think that, first and foremost, Deuce in the starting lineup, but also any lineup with Josh Hart and Precious on the floor at the same time, it's not it. Not in today's NBA. You can't do it. Can't do it. It's not gonna work. You can do it on some lesser teams, and you'll have some success. Against the best teams, you run that lineup. Against the best coaches, you run that lineup. Nope, because they're not gonna guard them, and they're just gonna make life way harder. Again, go over to hot hand theory. Watch them with their breakdown of a particular possession where the Knicks come up and it is Josh Hart and Precious on the floor, and they're not even looking at paying attention to whether or not people go screens. They're going way underneath screens. But Porzingis is basically manning the paint and like the mid-range both at the same time, because there's two players on the floor that they all realize they don't have to guard. And they've been coached that, hey, when these guys are on the floor, this is how we're going to attack them, and this is how we're going to leave them alone. And that is another thing that I wonder when it comes to Thibs. We always hear about Thibs being very prepared. I personally, just eye test, watching the games, feel like we have base sets and philosophies that we run on both offense and defense, and those do not vary. We're not adding new wrinkles to exploit a weakness on a nightly basis. When I watch OKC play, when I watch Boston play, when I watch Cleveland play, when I watch the Lakers play, when I watch Houston play, those teams are running a game plan that is based on their opponent, not on what necessarily they do well. Of course, you're going to emphasize the things that you do well, but that is obviously there's context to that depending on the particular game. But also, in addition, you have to go out and exploit the other team's weaknesses. You have to say, hey, listen, this guy, Karl Anthony Towns, he sucks in drop coverage. Jason Tatum, I want you to run a pick and roll with his man every single whoever has Cat or whoever Cat's guarding, come set a pick for Tatum. Tatum, we saw it the first play of the season. We saw it the first play of this past game on Saturday. We've seen it over and over again. We drop coverage, just step right into it, cash. And then once he gets going now, he's got his heels on the logo and he's pulling up cash. And once he starts doing that, there's nothing you can do with him. So we absolutely have to figure out a way to look at what other teams do and run an offense, run sets, hunt mismatches to be able to exploit their weaknesses. I don't see that as much from the Knicks as much as I see these other elite teams do to us. It's not just that they're better than us. It's not just that they're executing better than we are. It's not just that they're out efforting us. All of those things have been true in all 7 of these games, definitely at certain points. But I'm also seeing them come in with a game plan that is tailored to us more so than we are to them. That's the evolution. The NBA coach who doesn't just say, "Hey, we run this motion offense, and on defense, we always emphasize protecting the paint and being in good position to defensive rebound, as opposed to protecting the three and maybe giving up a little bit of rebounding and maybe giving up some more shots at the rim, but we're not going to let other teams kill us from behind the arc." That's a more modern day thought process and scheme when it comes to defense. Tom Thibodeau does not believe that. Tom Thibodeau believes that we should make sure that we do our best to just man the paint. And I think, especially with this current roster that we have, that's not the best strategy. With this starting lineup as is, without Mitchell for the first, almost 60 games of the season, 57 games of the season. What were we, 30 and 17? I'm sorry, 47 games of the season. I think at the end of the day, man, we're 37 and 20. So my bad, guys. 57 games. All right. Got 25 games left. And we score the ball well. We average 117.9 points per game. The defense has been lacking. It needs to be better. I do think, though, when we play some of these best teams, the offense needs to be better. We beat up on some of the more, the bottom of the league, and we can score at will against these guys. When it comes to playing against the top teams in the NBA, offensively, they scheme us out of being able to do what we do best. And especially when we're not hitting our threes, it does not look good. Shout out to my guy Keith Watkins, as always, showing love. Greetings from the ATL. My guy is driving but still listening. I appreciate you, brother, as always. Keith, man, we're at a weird spot right now because this team I'm tired of hearing this isn't the team yet. We don't have the talent. We do have the talent. Our top six are as good as anybody. So you telling me we don't have it because we don't have the right 7, 8, 9? Nah, that don't make no sense to me, man. But I do think that getting Mitch back is going to help. But as I said before, our coach needs to evolve a little bit. He does. He needs to look at the analytics of the lineups that perform best and emphasize those lineups. He needs to emphasize shooting and defending the three more than defending the paint. It's just that simple. We are the worst 3-point defense. We give up the highest 3-point percentage against in the NBA. And that is not just because guys aren't busting it to close out on shooters. That is a philosophical issue. We funnel everything back to the paint. Boston understands how we play defense. They come up, they run a pick and roll, a simple pick and roll, and it ends up with the guy on the far side wide open for three, because we have been coached to be so eager to help on the weak side on that pick and roll on the roller. Sometimes you got to live or die with what happens with that roller, and you got to figure out a way to make sure that that Derek White doesn't end up with a wide open fucking three. Because guess what? He's going to hit it. We have to figure out a way to play the game in a slightly more we need to look, and we need to emphasize a more modern game plan, and it's really that simple. And it's something that it's okay. I shouldn't say it's that simple because it's not. It's not simple, but it is something that philosophically there could be some very simple changes that were made, and I think it could definitely take the Knicks from being a pretender to a contender. Because right now, that's what we are. We pretenders. We not contenders right now. I think we have the talent to be, but the way that we're playing, it's just not there right now. Bridges, man, you got to be better. OG, OG, I'm not even saying I want a ton more points from you. Just, he's coming back from injury. So I'm gonna give him a little bit of time. I'll give OG a bit of a pass here. We need more Deuce. Deuce is playing 23.7 minutes a game. Deuce needs to be playing 30 minutes a game. He needs to be. Defensively, he's a pest. Offensively, he can shoot. His overall percentage has dipped a little bit this year. I know last year he was shooting up closer to 40%, and this year his 3-point percentage is down to, where you at, Deuce? Deuce McBride. It's down to 37%. It's not bad, but he's willing to shoot them, and that's important. And I know I've heard this stat recently that he's shooting 50% on wide open threes. To me, that sounds like let's get him in with Cat and with Brunson even more, because he's going to be shooting, guess what? More wide open threes. And Cat and Brunson are going to generate you good shots on a consistent basis. Josh Hart with that second unit, now he's running up and down the floor, getting those layups, getting those offensive rebounds and second possessions. That is going to lead to better shots for the second unit. You cannot play Precious at 4 against elite teams. No. Definitely not against no Joe Mazzulla coach team. Absolutely not. No way, no how. Don't do it ever again, Thibs, please. I think overall there are some improvements that could be made. And I think that overall getting Mitch back, whether he be in the starting lineup or playing with the subs, as I said before, I like him better coming off the bench. But Precious is he's a 5. He's a stretch 5. You play him as a power forward too much in this league, especially if he's next to Cat, maybe. 4 next to just about anybody else, as a 4 with Josh Hart also on the floor. It's not it's not going to be good, man. It's not going to be good. It's not going to work out well. I thought Shamet played some of his best minutes against the Celtics in the first half, and then he barely played, or maybe didn't play at all in the second half. I thought that was a little odd. Campaign, it's so wishy-washy with this guy because listen, part of his game is that he's gonna pull up and shoot some wild threes, and when he hits them, it's a party. But when he misses them, it's like, God damn it, get this dude off the floor. I just, especially if he's not already going, and if as a team we're not already going, I could use a little bit more self-control from Campaign. That long ass 3, man, if you hot, that's one thing. If the team is kind of rolling and we doing our thing, all right, no doubt. But sometimes, especially when we struggling a little bit, Campaign deciding to pull up from crazy deep. Nah, that's not it, fam. It's just not. Shout out to all the people checking us out on all the different platforms, whether that be YouTube, Twitch, X, Instagram. Hit that like, hit that subscribe, share with your friends. Let these other Knicks fans know your boy Nic On Knicks is here talking about the Knicks multiple times a week. I also have the weekly podcast that I do with my dad called He Did This to Me. Sports podcast between a father and son who happen to be mostly optimistic Knicks, Jets, and Mets fans. So check that out every week as well. Go over to the YouTube channel, hit subscribe there. That's what helps us the most. Appreciate you. So let's first and foremost realize that we're 37-20. We're third in the East. We're only 4 games back of Boston. That every team has a bad record against Boston, Cleveland, and OKC, except for like Atlanta, weirdly. But yeah, those teams they're the 3 best teams in the league. Guess what? They got really good records. So most teams have losing records against them. I need a little bit of growth from my guy Thibs, man. People who say fire Thibs, for who? Who you bringing in? If you tell me right now I can fire Thibs and I can get Joe Mazzulla, we on board with that. Udoka, yeah, we on board with that. I know he hasn't done much, but JJ Redick, I think the world of him. Yeah. But for real, man, like at the end of the day, like everybody who says fire Thibs, for who? I just really hope that we get to see some of the different, lineup experimentation over this last 25. And we have, some different things figured out going into the playoffs because a first round exit would be a real kick in the nuts. Let's be for real. Second round exit, I'm still going to kind of look at that as an overall disappointment. But I mean, if we're playing Cleveland or Boston in the second round, most likely Boston. I was Boston in 5 right now, man. Knicks got to change a lot. They got to show me something right now for me not to feel that way. And I'm optimistic always, but I got to keep it a buck. We're not on that team's level when it comes to star power, individual play, overall defense, guys and their connectivity and the way that they play together. And their coach is better than ours. Keep it real. Keep it real. Their coach is better than ours. I still think Thibs is top 10. That top 3 to 5. They've got the best of us this year in every aspect, and that includes the coaching staff. We got a lot of time left. The schedule is tough. We got our share of back-to-backs. We have the toughest schedule as far as opponent win-loss percentage. We have a major piece being reintegrated into the rotation in Mitchell Robinson, and we know that sometimes that can come along with growing pains. But I think that this Knicks team right now is not as good as it'll be at the end of the year, injuries permitted. Now, when you look at Thibs, was Thibs the best coach for these teams that we have had these last few years where maybe we didn't have this type of offensive firepower? Just Thibs, a very good point that I've heard a few people make about Thibs is that Thibs, he raises your floor. The question is does he lower your ceiling with some of his more antiquated philosophies on basketball both offensively and defensively? And I'm not Mr. Minutes Police. Putting Cat back in that game against Boston was unexcusable. That's the type of shit where you make it hard for people like me to defend you, Thibs. So we play against the 76ers, who are dumpster fire right now. Embiid's consulting different doctors. Paul George hasn't scored over 17 points in like a month. They lost by 40 to Chicago, who, though we've had trouble with them and we're 1-2 against them. They're a below 500 team. They lost by 40 to them dudes. So, the Philly game is an absolute must win. No ifs, ands, or buts. If they lose that game, the Knicks Nation is going to lose their mind. The sky will absolutely be falling at that point. I just hope that we start to put lineups out there that are a little bit more modern. The Josh Hart and Precious Achua on the floor at the same time is not modern NBA basketball. I would also like to see more diversity in how we guard the pick and roll, and with more of an emphasis on not giving up open threes. I'd also like to see us be a little bit more deliberate on the offensive end, especially in key moments where we are running a play or an action that is looking to get a guy the ball in a position where he has an advantage over a defender, as opposed to kind of just running our sets. And it turns into Brunson hero ball. And if he can't get it going, now it gets kicked to cat with very little time left on the shot clock. And, we end up getting a not great shot. Our offensive players are too good to not run sets and actions that end in good shots. When you watch Cleveland play, all them oops they were getting on us, those are not just like, oh, a guy penetrates, somebody comes over to help and he throws him the oop. No, those are plays that they are running from the beginning of the set, that it's 3 or 4 passes and that last pass is a lob, and they do it because they know that this other team is going to be out of position, specifically the Knicks, because of how they play basketball. We don't do that enough to other teams on the offensive end. We let shit like that happen to us too often on the defensive end. And some of that is effort from the players. Some of that is scheme by Tom Thibodeau. Thibs, you my guy. I love you, man. I really do. I hope you're the coach when we eventually raise that banner in the Garden as champions of the NBA. I hope it happens soon, because, I hope it happens in my lifetime. I hope it happens with I want to enjoy that with my pops. If you watch my other podcast, we are longstanding Knicks fans. We bleed orange and blue. And we can't wait to walk down the Cannon of Heroes with our guys. But it's not going to happen if our coach doesn't get better, evolve, grow. That's what life is all about, right? And you know what? I know Thibs has been around for a while. He's been coaching for 30 years. I still think he can. I think he can do it. Just got to hope he will. It's your boy Nic On Knicks. Hey!